What if the world stopped for a moment, not because of noise, but because of a memory? What if a 16-year-old boy could make thousands of people feel something they thought was gone forever? On a bright stage under the lights of America's Got Talent, a slim teenage boy stood quietly.
Please subscribe to our channel.
The crowd did not cheer at first. They only stared. From a distance, he looked like a shadow from the past. The curly hair. The gentle eyes.
Please subscribe to our
the shy
channel.
posture. It was as if time had folded in on itself. His name was Ayan Malik. 16 years old. Soft-spoken. Sensitive. A dreamer who always felt older than his age. Beside him in the wings stood his mother, Sana. A single parent. Strong, patient, and endlessly protective. She had watched her son practice in their small living room for years, even when neighbors complained about the music. Back home, there was also his younger sister, Hira. Playful, innocent, and Ayan's biggest believer. She used to clap loudly after every rehearsal, even when no one else did. But tonight was different. Tonight was not just about talent. It was about resemblance. About expectation. About the heavy weight of looking like someone the world once loved deeply. When Ayan first walked onto the stage, a soft murmur spread through the audience. Some leaned forward. Some whispered a familiar name. Could this boy truly carry the spirit of a legend? Or would he be crushed under comparisons he never asked for? The judges watched carefully. The lights dimmed. The music waited. And in that quiet second before everything changed, one question hung in the air. Was this just a teenage performer? Or was this the beginning of a moment no one would ever forget? Ayan Malik had never asked to look like Michael Jackson. It simply happened as he grew older. The sharp jawline. The soft curls. The quiet eyes that seemed to carry unspoken emotion. At school, classmates would stare at him in the hallways. Some would smile in amazement. Others would whisper and laugh. Ayan never knew whether to feel proud, or uncomfortable. He was not loud. He did not like attention outside the stage. In class, he sat near the window, sketching tiny musical notes in the corners of his notebooks. Music was his safe place. When the world felt too heavy, he would put on old vinyl recordings at home and close his eyes. He did not just hear songs. He felt them move through him like memories he had never lived. Their apartment was small. The paint on the walls had faded. Sometimes the electricity would flicker during storms. His mother worked long hours at a tailoring shop. Ayan often stayed home after school, helping his sister with homework before practicing for hours. He practiced in front of a mirror that had a small crack in one corner. He would repeat the same movement again and again. Not to copy someone, but to understand himself. Yet inside, he carried fear. What if people only saw the resemblance and not the boy? What if they clapped for a memory, and not for Ayan? He dreamed of standing on a big stage one day. But dreams can feel fragile when you come from a small place. Tonight, standing under the bright lights of America's Got Talent, his hands trembled slightly. Not because he doubted his voice. But because he feared becoming a shadow instead of a star in his own right. And deep inside his heart, one quiet wish remained. He did not want to be the next legend. He only wanted to be enough. The resemblance had once felt like a blessing. When Ayan was 13, people in the neighborhood would smile at him kindly. They would ask him to sing at small gatherings. They would call him Little Legend with affection. But as he grew older, the smiles changed. Online videos of him began to spread. Strangers compared him endlessly to Michael Jackson. Some praised him. Others accused him of copying a life that was never his. The comments were not always gentle. They said he would never be the same. They said he was just an imitation. They said the world did not need another version of someone who was already unforgettable. Ayan read those words late at night when the house was silent. He would scroll through his phone in the dark, the screen lighting up his tired eyes. Each sentence felt like a small crack inside his chest. He began to doubt his own reflection. Was he performing because he loved music? Or because people expected him to live inside someone else's shadow? At school, the teasing became sharper. Some classmates would hum famous tunes whenever he walked past. Others would mock his movements behind his back. He stopped eating lunch in the cafeteria. He chose the library instead, where silence did not judge him. Even at home, he tried to hide his sadness. He smiled for his sister. He told his mother everything was fine. But in his room, when the door was closed, he would stand in front of the cracked mirror and stare at his own face. He did not see a star. He did not see a copy. He saw a confused 16-year-old boy who just wanted to be understood. And that confusion slowly began to silence his voice. The day everything almost ended, was the day everything truly began. 2 weeks before the live audition on America's Got Talent, Ayan made a quiet decision. He told his mother he did not want to go. He said he was tired. He said it was not the right time. But the truth was heavier than those words. That night, he opened his phone again. Another video of him had gone viral. Another wave of comments comparing him to Michael Jackson. But this time, one comment stood out. It was not praise. It was not hate. It simply said, "Stop trying to be him. Be yourself." For a long time, Ayan stared at those words. They felt different. Not cruel. Not mocking. Just honest. He walked to the mirror in his room. The cracked glass reflected the same familiar face. For years, he had tried to perfect every movement. Every tilt of the head. Every spin. But in that quiet moment, he realized something painful. He had been chasing approval. Not passion. The next morning, something unexpected happened. His little sister Hira placed a small drawing on his bed before school. It showed him standing on a stage. But above him, instead of another name, she had written only one word in big letters. Ayan. No comparison. No legend. No shadow. Just him. For the first time in months, he felt something warm instead of heavy. Maybe the stage was not meant to prove he was someone else. Maybe it was the place where he could finally introduce himself to the world. That evening, he walked into the living room and told his mother he was ready. Not to imitate. Not to compete with a memory. But to sing as himself. And that quiet decision changed everything. When the stage lights finally dimmed and the applause slowly faded inside the Grand Theater of America's Got Talent, something deeper remained. It was not just excitement. It was not just surprise. It was realization. Ayan had walked onto that stage carrying a burden. The burden of resemblance. The burden of comparison. The burden of living in the shadow of Michael Jackson. But he walked off carrying something entirely different. He carried his own name. The world will always compare. It will measure. It will remind you of who came before you. But it often forgets to ask who you are becoming. Ayan's journey was never about replacing a legend. It was about finding courage inside confusion. It was about choosing authenticity over approval. Sometimes the greatest struggle is not failure. It is identity. It is standing in front of a mirror and wondering if you are enough without pretending to be someone else. That night, the applause was not for imitation. It was for honesty. It was for a 16-year-old boy who decided that being himself was braver than being perfect. And maybe that is the lesson hidden beneath the lights and music. You can admire greatness. You can learn from legends. But your voice was not created to echo another's life. It was created to tell your own story. In a world that constantly compares, the most powerful thing you can do is remain original. Because shadows disappear when you finally step into your own light. That night on the AGT stage became more than a performance. When Daniel opened his mouth and sang, the theater did not just hear Elvis. They heard sacrifice. They heard late nights. They heard a son who refused to let his father's music fade away. And when Simon leaned forward, no longer skeptical but stunned, it was clear that something rare had happened. A delivery rider from Manila had crossed oceans. Not with wealth. Not with connections. But with heart. The applause that followed was loud. But the real victory was quieter. It was the moment Daniel realized he had already won. Because courage is not measured by trophies. It is measured by the decision to try. He understood that fear never truly disappears. It simply steps aside when faith becomes stronger. Back home, his mother watched through tear-filled eyes. Not because her son stood on an American stage. But because he finally allowed himself to stand fully in his own light. Daniel's journey reminds the world of something simple. Dreams are not selfish. They are seeds planted in the heart for a reason. Sometimes we bury them under responsibility. Under doubt. Under the fear of failing in front of others. But when we choose courage, we do not just change our own life. We inspire someone else watching in silence. Maybe a delivery rider. Maybe a mother. Maybe a young dreamer who feels too small for a big stage. Daniel did not silence America because he sounded like Elvis. He silenced them because his story was real. And the greatest lesson of all is this. You do not need to be born powerful to move the world. You only need to be brave enough to let your true voice be heard. Microphone Philippine Sparkles.